Hello, I'm Tenestus, and welcome to Roll for Minigame, where the randomizers give us game mechanics, and we have to design a brand new game using those mechanics. So let's see what format we get in episode 2. A quick solo scoreboard. Okay, I like that one. I like that. And how many mechanics are we going to get? 2 mechanics. Okay, this is looking like it's going to be very simple. And what category is the first mechanic? Equipment. Okay, that could tie in very well with the scoreboard, obviously, depending on which one we get. And which one do we get? A crossbow. Okay, sounding like we're going to make some kind of an archery game here, which I do enjoy. And the good thing about a crossbow is you can use it with fireworks as well as arrows, so that is a very good one to get. And the second category is miscellaneous. Okay. We've got a few interesting things in this category, but let's see what we get. Sound and music. So here are the 3 things that we need to include. It needs to be a quick solo scoreboard, there needs to be a crossbow involved, and it needs to involve sound or music in some way. Now, I intentionally kept this quite vague. You know, the sound could be part of the challenge, something like note blocks. Or it could be, you know, the game lasts as long as a music disc, something like that, and that would have the music feature. That kind of fits with this. We could find the quickest music disc, and then you use a crossbow to hit some targets or kill some mobs or something where you would end up getting a score. So I'm pleased with this mix. We can definitely do something with these. So I've been thinking about this for a while now, and I think I've landed on a concept that works. We will use note blocks to be the sound or music feature, and the way it will work is the player who has the crossbow will hear a certain sound, a certain note, and they have to shoot a corresponding target for that note. So imagine we have 8 notes of a scale. The player will hear a sound and they will have to pick which notes they think they heard and shoot that target. So I'm thinking it can be called like perfect pitch or pitch perfect or something like that, because it kind of ties into perfect pitch that some people have, where they can hear a note and they know exactly, you know, that was a B flat, that was a F sharp, you know, that sort of thing. Now, obviously, I don't want this game to only work for people who have perfect pitch. So the idea would be the notes would come fairly quickly and players can use the distance from the previous note to kind of work out where they needed to shoot. You know, if there was a higher pitch note and then the next one was a little bit lower, they can kind of work out where it should be, and they will get feedback probably on whether or not their shot was successful. So it's almost like it's going to be an archery game combined with training for people's relative pitch. So hopefully after playing for a bit, people will be able to figure out their intervals a little bit better. And we do have some musical people on Zcraft, so I'm hoping this will be appreciated. But there's some things that I need to figure out with the redstone. So we will have some kind of a randomizer, you know, a shulker box randomizer with 8 outputs, something like that. But I need to make sure that players aren't using the directional audio of Minecraft to figure out what note is being played, right? So I might actually need to have like the notes be in line like this. I've just got the vanilla tweaks note block texture here. So the notes might need to be like this in the center, all very close to the player, so that you can't tell, oh, this one was on my left, so I need to shoot to the left, right? We'll have them in the center like this. And then if we have the 8 targets at the back like this, fairly close together, even if there are piston sounds behind, players might not be able to like hear the piston well enough to know whether it was on the right or the left. I'm kind of losing my train of thought here, because the problem here is once the randomizer plays the note, the randomizer also needs to select which target works, right? Because the point is the note will play and then the player needs to shoot the target, and something in the back of the target needs to only work for the correct note, right? That's where I'm thinking. So maybe we would have a piston in the back, you know, we could have something like this where we've got a signal out the back, but the signal only works for the one where the block has been raised. So we would have pistons under all of these, and then depending on what the randomizer chose, it would power one of these pistons. And we could have some pistons be above and some be below to give us a little bit more room here. But yeah, I think so that people aren't like detecting the piston sounds, I do think we probably want the targets to be very close together like this. And then it also adds a bit of a challenge with the actual aiming of the crossbow. And then above the targets, we will have the letters for the notes here. Again, people aren't necessarily going to know that they heard a C. They might just be relating it to the previous one, or they may play multiple times and recognize what the lowest note is. And we'll probably do an octave C to C. So in concept, I feel like that works. I just need to figure out exactly how this redstone is going to work so that we can build in a clock and a scoring system and stuff like that. Maybe the game plays for a minute and there's 20 notes that play. You know, maybe you get one every 3 seconds, something like that. Maybe every 2 seconds, actually. And then you really have to shoot quickly after hearing the note. But I think 8 is a good amount of notes because players can still guess and have a chance at getting it right. But we definitely need that feedback to say whether or not the player got it right so that they can then gauge where to aim the next one. If you're ever working with note blocks, remember that they power the adjacent blocks as well because it is a solid block. So this setup at the moment actually plays 3 of the notes, which would make the game significantly harder. I wanted to do it this way so that I could carry the signal through. You know, maybe we take the signal from here and feed it into the targets, which we will have back here. But yeah, I think we're going to need a block in front of these in order for it to work. So my thinking here, I'm kind of torn on what I'm doing. So we've got the shulker box randomizer here with the 8 shulker boxes, which powers one of these redstone torches. And then we want that redstone torch to play the note block, but also to control something to do with the targets, right? So I'm trying to think, where do I put the note blocks in a place where I can also take the redstone easily into 8 different wires, right? Because when you've got things this compact, it can make things a little bit trickier. Technically, we could have gaps in between these note blocks, but then I'm worried that the further note blocks are going to be too quiet and people will be able to gauge the note by how quiet it is rather than what note plays. So I really want it to be this compact. I'm just a little bit concerned about how we take signal from this. Although maybe we use honey and slime blocks now that I think about it. So let me move this over. So now let's test it. We get just one note. I'm not sure if I'll use guitar or maybe a different sound. It's not a bad sound to use. But now we can take a signal from the top of the torch. We could even have blocks above it to give us an extra bit of space, but I'm not sure how much space we will need. I do feel like I'm half explaining everything and not explaining in full. I'm just trying to think at the same time. But still, how do we get them to be separate? Because if I put something on here connected to the honey block, then suddenly it ends up being connected to the slime as well, because the slime is next to it. Could we come out this way and this way on the slime? So then we've got something like this. They're not going to accidentally connect to each other or connect to the honey. And then on this side, we have a similar thing, right? So one of these blocks is going to move each time, right? Okay, the same one. It's always the same one when you want to test something different. There we go. So you see, we've got a honey one that rose up, but I'm basically getting to a point where we can get individual signals based on which colour fires, and then we will do something with that signal to activate the target, and then we need the opposite. We need that target to then come back and allow the winning signal to come through. So, the benefit of this is we could have like an observer here. That might be the way to do it, because then we can have a piston at the target block, which will then unpower when this retracts. And we just need to make sure the space between them is long enough so that if the same one fires, we won't get 2 observer signals in the same moment. So we're going to take 8 different observer signals here. I'll keep using the coloured wool so that we know exactly what we're kind of looking at here. So that is going to pull up and activate that, which is going to give us a redstone signal here. This game is going to end up a bit bigger than I expected. Because what we could do, let's just imagine one of these. So we take that signal from here. Now the centre needs to be here, which is a little bit awkward because the actual centre of the pistons is here, whereas the audio cue is centred here, which we could fix with extra slime blocks if we wanted to. I'm not sure if we need to yet. And the way that we're designing it, the colours are going to be a bit all over the place. But I mean, it's fine. The colours can be changed. They're not a problem. So let's say the first one is here. And this one, because it's underneath, is going to rise up. And it's going to be a very quick pulse. So it's going to spit that block up there. And what that means is we could have a target here with a repeater here, and that repeater is only going to go through the wool if the block has risen. So that is how we can determine whether there was a success. And then we could take the signal from here. We can probably connect all of these up with redstone, because only one of them is going to be active at any point. And then that redstone line can feed to our scoring mechanism. Let me just make sure that that works. There we go. So the block rose up, which means I can now hit this target and the signal goes through. And then when this switches off, this pulls down, I shoot the target, and nothing happens. And even if the one next to it had gone up, that still wouldn't cause anything to happen on this line. So now, how was I imagining these lines would connect? What was my plan here? I was thinking some of them would go up above. So I guess one could start here and go like that. And if my thought was to piston down, we still need a block that ends up here. So it's actually going to be pushed down from here, which means the sticky piston is here, right? So the target's still in the same spot. The repeater's still in the same spot. The block needs to move down in order to be activated. And then we need to get redstone to this point. I think one thing, if we move the orange out one block, my redstone builds are very trial and error. Let's move that out one block. And then the line can come all the way out here. And the problem is this is no longer going to be under the game. Oh yeah, I need to think about where the audience is going to be. Because if we're going to have a floor that's here, it would need to be out of something that can't be glued to a slime block. So really we need the floor to be here. So we need those targets to actually be quite a bit higher. So in concept, does this work? We then take a line here, and then the next one we take like that. That works. We've got the 4 lines that are all coming out. They just need to come across and power the relevant things. You know, the blue one can go like this, and then the pink one can still come up here and round the back of the game. If this is where we have the floor, we could then have a wall here, which doesn't cut off the redstone lines. And then the targets will be up here, which means we can then, raise this up, bring it around. We probably need this one to actually go around the back as well. So that the pink one can be close. The blue one's right to come across like that, but yeah. The pink one can come up here and just go like that. I feel like this has melted my brain a little bit. So I'm going to stop recording. I'm going to try and build this out how I've described it there, because I think in concept it works. Okay, so I think I've figured this out. So we've got the orange all the way around the outside, which is underneath here, and that will push this block up. And then we've got the pink running alongside the wall, but not getting the redstone cut off by the wall. And then that comes along here and we'll push this one down. The blue one comes underneath and underneath the pink. Again, it's not blocked off. And these aren't connected. And this, similar to the orange, will just push this block up. I'm worried there's going to be some like quasi-connectivity here. So I might change these out for glass blocks. I think that would fix that. Because I think these might keep the piston powered in one way or another. I've never wrapped my head around that. But yeah, need to make sure that doesn't happen. But then again, we have the fourth one here where the line goes all the way around the outside and we'll push this down. So if we test this just with the randomizers, we can see the line block was pushed down and then we pull it back up. It comes back up and then we get the blue one. Again, this gets pushed up. And just to confirm, you can see that redstone line does get powered. So I will build this on the other side. We will have to have a low one first. So purple will have to be low, yellow will have to be low, and then the red and cyan will be high. But we'll be able to do the same thing on that side. Okay, so we've got things set up on both sides now. And if we just activate this, we can see that green has gone down. I do need to change the order of the notes because we've taken the colours in different directions. But let's just make sure that this works here. I'll shoot the line target and we get instant feedback. I chose a note outside of the scale as well and a completely different instrument. Now, technically, the players would be able to shoot the target twice. So that is the benefit of having the crossbow. So I think we're going to have an unenchanted crossbow, and then the time it takes to charge the crossbow is like the time you would get per round. It's like 2 seconds-ish, I think is fine. So we will have a clock that lasts maybe 2 seconds, maybe 2 and a bit seconds, give people time to react, as long as they don't have the time to shoot the same target twice. And then we will hook this up to a scoring system, which will just be items in a barrel. And then the last thing is we actually need to build the clock for this mechanism, because all I've been doing here is, you notice, when this is unpowered, it resets. So we don't want that to last very long. We don't want there to be long where there's no available target. So you see, we got the sound and we got the block lowered basically at the same time. There's maybe a tiny delay. So that's fine. Nobody's going to shoot that target before they hear that note. So they will have, 1.5, 2 seconds to shoot that target. And then by that time, it's gone off again. And it will go onto the next one. So maybe we have like 4 ticks where it's off to give us time to push this into, push the last shulker into the hopper. And then maybe we have 4 4-tick repeaters, which is 1.6 seconds, where this is active. And then that will be a 2-second clock. We can play that clock for a minute. A minute is very easy to do in Redstone. And then that means we get 30 attempts to shoot the targets. So this should work. Once you push this button, it will fire an arrow into this pressure plate, which will lower down this block, and it will lower down the observer. The observer will send the first signal into this block, which will now be lowered, and then that will carry through these 4 blocks here. So it's essentially a cycle of 5 blocks, each with a 4-tick repeater. I'm going to need another one of them here. So this is 5 lots of 4 ticks, so that is 2 seconds in total. And for the first 4 blocks here, the signal will also be taken from the back of the block and into this clock, right? So the piston will pull back, it will fire the shulker box, and then when the signal is going through here and to this block, nothing happens, right? So 4 of these 5 blocks will power the system. The 5th will give it time to reset. So let's give that a go and see if we got it to work. There we go. We have a musical randomizer. And I still haven't fixed where the notes are, but obviously we can see at least half of them. Now my first thought here is it's a little bit fast. Like, I feel like because I can see what's going on, I was able to shoot some of those in time. But if somebody is listening, then having to think, was that higher or lower than the previous one? I think we probably need to give them a little bit more time. So I think we'll add another section here. So it will now stay active for 2 seconds and then have 4 ticks to reset. I think that's better. It might still be a little bit fast, but it works quite well with the rhythm of the crossbow as well. I don't think we're going to need an enchanted crossbow. I think this rhythm works out quite well. Okay, so I've changed the colours around down here so that they now line up in order here. And we've added the banners, C to C, and I've also set it up so I can't see the redstone now. So this is how it will be for the players. They will only be able to see the 8 targets. They will hear a sound. I think the note blocks are like underneath these blocks. Now my hope is with just 8 sounds, this is simple enough to kind of get used to hearing which ones are the low ones and which ones are the high ones. And then the more you play, the less you'll be guessing. You know, if you hear a low one, you might aim somewhere around here, a high one somewhere around here. But then over time, you might recognize which one is the highest one. And then if the next one is slightly below that, you know that it's going to be the B. But I will just say I anticipate this being a difficult game. But let's give this a try. Oh, we got that right. Oh, we didn't quite get the highest there. Was that right? Yes. Okay, this is so hard. Oh my god. I feel like for testing reasons, I need to know if the redstone's working. There were almost some in there where I felt like I got it right. Like it should have been the next one and I did the next one. But that was kind of fun. I did feel like I got into the kind of, you know, even if I got one wrong over here and there was a lower note, I was still going to the left because I could tell that it was a lower note. And what was my score for that? I scored 6. I don't think that's too bad. And the scoring system is incredibly simple here. We just reset manually. So I want to just make sure that the redstone is all in place, and we can see that right after the targets. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it again, and I'm just going to make sure that we see all 8 of these colours rise up when we would expect them to. That's not right. Both of those shouldn't connect. So yellow works, but orange is actually triggering 2 of them. Which interestingly should have made it easier for me. Maybe that's why I got a little bit confused, because I got one right on yellow when it was actually wrong. So it is just orange which is causing a problem, where orange up here is also powering... Oh, because of this, because this block is actually getting powered, which means that this dust is also getting powered. I think we can just do that to fix that. Just to be sure, I will bring it down here as well. Yeah, that's the nature with compact redstone. There's always something touching something else that it shouldn't. And here, I see, we don't have the problem on this side because we had this extra buffer block. So this block is getting, you know, strongly powered directly from the observer, whereas this block just has dust on top. So it's not getting strongly powered, which means it's not powering this. Okay, that makes sense. So I think that actually works well. I think the game works. I'm going to give it one more go now, and we'll see if I can do any better than before. I just missed my shot then. I'm starting to get lost now. Okay. Good to get a C at that point. I'm lost. Okay. This is a difficult game. And I'm, you know, at least somewhat musically involved in my life. Yeah, the fact that I know the redstone is working now, I can't blame the redstone. There's a chance that I'm just inaccurate with the crossbow. There was one where I genuinely missed. I wanted to hit the G and I hit the F. Which again, that's, you know, definitely part of the game. It's a crossbow game as well as a music game. Those were the 2 featured things, so it's good that they are both involved. And we scored 8 that time. I do feel like with practice, I would get better at this, because I definitely recognised when the lowest C was being played. But when a high note was played, I wasn't sure if it was the B or the C up here. And then this middle zone was just a nightmare. But like, I feel like I should be able to recognise like a major third or a minor third, you know, these intervals that are so common in music. And a perfect fifth, like C to G, should be really obvious to me. But yeah, that was tough in a good way. I'm pleased with how this turned out. And I do think I'm going to build this on Zcraft. And we'll let other people give it a go and see how it plays. So I'm on Zcraft here. Here is the finished game. I had to figure out a couple of issues, but other than that, it is basically the version that you've seen in this video. And now let's give it a real test. The start is the hardest. There we go. Give me a C. Now you may notice there's a different sound that plays now. There you go. So you get like a call and response of the note that you hit rather than a gold block. I definitely hit D there. So the orange one isn't working. Yeah, so all I did is I disconnected this gold block, and instead, you might be able to see it from here, the blocks that push up that the target signal goes through, I changed them into note blocks. So you get that harp sound whenever you get a success, because it has to pass through that note block. But orange isn't working. So let's see if we can figure out. A little bit harder to navigate in survival. Okay, no, this looks correct to me. Let's start the game and then we'll watch it from in there. So we can see how it works here. So we did get an orange one there. I definitely saw that redstone light up. So again, we can see the mechanism here. The note blocks rise up, which means when we shoot the target and power the repeater. Oh. Why is that sticky piston not letting go of the... Do we have a repeater down here? Because this is an observer into dust, this is definitely a 1 tick. We've definitely got that part right. And then the signal is coming up here. It's going through a 1 tick repeater. But it's acting like more than that. Like this is the same setup on all of the other lines. Is it something to do with how close... Like, is this some kind of quasi-connectivity because we've got the repeater here? Is this like repeater and the dust? Like, is it somehow getting powered from over here and there? I feel like I'm just making stuff up here, but let's swap the dust and the repeater here. And let me take some of these out. No. That hasn't fixed it. Let's watch pink, because pink is basically the same setup. Blue definitely works. Pink works. I'm losing my mind. Okay. So yeah, this is the setup from pink. 3 dust, you've got the repeater there. There's no other redstone around. The other lines aren't going to be powered at the same time, so they're not going to interfere. I don't understand. I just don't understand. Just to make sure it's nothing to do with this repeater, I'm going to come down here and... Oh, I can't put the repeater anywhere else. I'm going to put the repeater here, right? And then I'm also going to... I don't see why this would even affect it. But we're going to come in from the side and power the block that way. And maybe that helps. Oh dear. That works. What? It must have been something to do with the way that dust was powering it. But I don't understand why pink works and orange didn't. God, I hate redstone sometimes. But they're all definitely working now. Yeah, why does pink work and orange didn't? If anyone can let me know, please do, because I cannot wrap my head around what was causing that. Right, let me put the other shulkers back in, and we'll give it a real test. Okay, now let's do a real test. Please work. Please work. Oh, empty the thing. Ooh. Okay, wait. I need that. Oh, did I miss? There we go, orange works. I'm also finding the aiming is a little bit more difficult than I thought. Oh, that was an E. I'm getting better though. I think it is a game where you will learn over time, which is good because it's quite a cool skill to have, to be able to to be able to recognise the notes you're hearing, or at least the intervals. I should stop talking. That was just so bad. Okay, we've got arrows. I'm not going to talk at all. I'm just going to play the game, and we'll see what kind of a score I can get. Okay, it is a very difficult game. I kind of locked in at parts and then just lost my kind of train of thought. And once you get one wrong, you don't know how you got it wrong, right? So that kind of relative pitch of knowing, oh, this was a little bit lower than the last one, stops being helpful because you've lost that sequence. But let's see how we did. 17, I think that's going to be a very good score in this game. I think it's possible to get them all right. I'm definitely interested to see how people fare, especially people who aren't as musically inclined. And then we might have some people who do have perfect pitch or close to that, or have played an instrument for years. And it'd be good to see how they do as well. But the game definitely works. That last bit of redstone was a bit tricky, but we managed to sort it out. And I'm very pleased with how this turns out, especially for a game where we got random prompts. So I'm back in the redstone again. I've just done another test. I thought I was ending the video, and there's just some inconsistencies with whether we get the sound from the note blocks. And I even had two sounds play at the same time, which shouldn't happen. The piston should have retracted by the time the next one plays. And I don't know if that, again, is something to do with quasi-connectivity. I don't know if the note blocks themselves can be powered in that way, or the note blocks cause that to happen. Because I know in Redstone, people use note blocks, like in melon farms and stuff like that, to make sure the pistons are updating at the right time. So my concern here is that these note blocks are actually contributing to the problem. You know, the problem that we had earlier with the orange line and the problems I'm having now. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to how it was in the test world, replace these with the blocks, and we will just have the feedback from the gold block like we did before. It's a shame because you don't get the call and response, which I think is nice to have, but it's a very quick sound, so it still tells you whether or not you were successful. So the gold block is connected again, and what I've also done is I've added a line here which will activate these lamps when there is a success. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't tell you which one was successful. It will just light them all up. But again, I feel like that is hopefully enough for people to feel like they know which shot was successful. So if I give it a quick test again, we won't play it all the way through, but we'll just see what a success looks like. So we've got the redstone lamps for the feedback. We've got the gold block for the feedback. This redstone seems to be working. There were some moments where I thought I should have got a point and I didn't, but I'm going to chalk that up to just missing the target. And one thing that I didn't mention before is I did give in and add quick charge to the crossbow. That was from some feedback that I got from the players who tested it. They ended up too focused on when to shoot the crossbow because that timing is actually quite tricky, especially if you're not used to using crossbows. So for me, it kind of came naturally, and I was thinking about the note. But for players, they were fully focused on the charging of the crossbow, which meant they were only firing every other shot. So we've changed it to quick charge 3. I'll just tell people to only shoot once per round. But I feel like it's quite intuitive to do that anyway. So that's fine. So I think with all that considered, I can finally end this incredibly long video. It was a bit of a journey, and there were a lot of redstone things to figure out. I've learned some things. Hopefully you did too. And if you want to see more videos like this, please do let me know. Like the video, subscribe, and all that nonsense. Thank you very much for watching.